Mostly he would spit in my face.
That is so degrading and disgusting.
It's worse than being punched in the
It's
face.
disgusting. What a horrible, vile.
It is the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
But that's what he used to do. He held his fist and was like, I want to smash your face in. I absolutely have escaped death from him on several occasions where I've had to run. I was due to go to Vegas with him for my birthday. I did think if I go to Vegas, I'm not coming back.
Yes.
I'd be coming back in a box. He had everybody dancing to his tune and creating chaos and animosity. He was like the puppet master. Everyone hated me. Got arrested for attempted ABH. And so then I was put in the cell. All these times that I had been abused, and yet I was the one that was being put in a cell. When that door shuts and you're in this very, very small confined space, you think, wow, I really am isolated now.
Wow.
The ultimate manipulation, coercion has put me here.
Yeah.
I allowed him to come back into my life. With a very different lens on, though. I was constantly being told by the police I didn't have enough evidence.
Okay.
So within 8 weeks, I had love bombing, the abuse, the stalking, the harassment.
You collected all the evidence.
Every conversation, every text I had. I say take pictures of yourself from day one and then every month, and you will see in your eyes everything about you. You will start to come back. That version of you is still inside.
Yeah.
You are going to grow. If you do recovery properly, you can get through this.
What a f***ing phenomenal lady you are. Welcome, Emma, to the show.
Thank you.
So for people that don't know, you are a narcissistic and coercive control expert. You're a survivor, but you're also a therapist. So you've actually done the training. You're not just here talking about it from a lived experience, although actually that would still be valid with your story. You are well versed in this. In fact, you're doing a master's at the moment, aren't you?
Yes. Psychology of coercive control.
So this has become your life. Not one that any little girl dreams of having, actually, to go through what you went through, which was horrendous on so many different levels. I must also give Liam a shout out, Liam Tufts, because he has become almost an agent for me. And he did the interview with you, which many will have seen. And he voice noted. I think you were in the room when he voice noted, just say, I've got someone special for you. And you've come quite a long way today as well and got caught in traffic jams and everything. So I just want to put that out there. This was not an easy journey. And this will be a very useful listen for and watch for the people tuning in. But it's going to be quite tough for some people to hear as well, just because they may well be in a similar situation themselves. We're all about sharing the truth, your truth, sharing the truth, but also educating others at this point. And I know you're doing really good work. So I just want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to get straight to the nitty gritty, I think, because, yeah, your story is layered with all sorts. And because of your story, you've created an app, which we're going to find out why you've created that app. And it isn't just an ordinary app as far as I'm concerned. It's really, really special. Take me back to the beginning of the story. Where does this chapter of your life begin?
Started when I was 26, when I thought I met Prince Charming.
Ah, that story.
Incredibly charming, charismatic, the soul of the party. You know, he was everything. And not just to me, to everyone else. You know, I was looking how other people were responding and being around him. And he was very, very likable. And so, of course, there was no red flags, but I was 26 back then. That was 10 years ago.
And actually at 26, you've only just really got to the prefrontal development. It's finished developing the brain at that age, about mid-20s. So you're in the infancy of wisdom and long-term thinking. It's really new to you at that point.
Massively.
Yeah.
And you are so young. And you're very naive at that point. And we weren't taught about coercive control.
No, we weren't.
At school. Yeah, in fact, at that point, 2015 is when I met him. That is when the Serious Crime Act of coercive control and behaviour came out. and that was not spoken about whatsoever.
No,
if
it
you'd have
wasn't.
said coercive and controlling behaviour, I wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about.
I don't think anyone knew. And to be fair, I don't think a lot of people understand it now. Even now, and that's 10 years later.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important point you've made. We weren't talking about it at all then. We were in the infancy of understanding what it was, and we still don't really understand it enough now, which is where you come in with your app, but that's a later story.
Yeah.
2015, 26, you meet Prince Charming. He is the life and soul of the party.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like, this guy's the one. You know, they want to be around him. And you're falling in love, I guess.
I didn't fancy him though when I met him.
It's often the way, isn't it?
He was 49, I was 26.
Yeah.
There was no way I was looking at this man in the gym thinking, you're really attractive. No. There was much more attractive men in the gym at that point. But nor was I looking for a relationship then. I think I was going through a time at that point. I just moved to the area, didn't know anybody, wasn't going through a great period in my life at that point. So I was just quite lost at that point. I was vulnerable, 100%. I was vulnerable.
Keyword, yeah.
And he made a beeline for me. Now, I know that he picked me as his next victim before he had even met me, because further down the line, he did say, I followed you home once, so I knew where you lived.
See, that makes my stomach turn.
This is before we'd even spoken. He followed me. I mean, I didn't live far from the gym, and I think he would have had to driven past that particular road anyway.
Yeah.
But I remember him saying that to me, thinking, that's a big string.
For anyone with daughters as well, you're listening to that thinking, my daughter goes to the gym, and you do think, and I know this is true, many women have had people that have followed them, and it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, I mean, for you as well, the way it ended. Very important point that you've made there, though. So that's quite an important detail.
That he had already picked me. Before he'd even started coercing me and love bombing me, I was his next victim. And yes, he was in a relationship, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
But so in his mind, a typical narcissist, he was going to discard and he was going to replace.
It's what they all do. It's just time and time again.
And I fell in love very, very quickly because he mirrored me. He gave me so much love, so much attention. We were together all the time, that bombarding of time.
Yeah.
That impulsiveness of, I want to see you. What have you done to me? Telling me that he loved me in the first week, telling me that he wants to marry me in the first month. It's like just chucking buckets of like love and affection that you're just like, oh, wow.
But what's interesting about that is anything you see or read about narcissists, they all say they want to marry you very quickly. They all bombard you with love very quickly. And it's important to say that because I think, although we know a lot, a lot of the stuff on social media is somewhat out of context. And we need to hear the full stories like yours to get for those that haven't been around it, who might have friends in that situation, to really understand it. But also just that whole, it's not just the time. You said something there about he mirrored you. They actually create a fantasized version of self, and then they create a fantasized version of you as well. So they're mirroring you, but they're also mirroring you the best version that you could ever possibly be. So they're creating you whilst they're mirroring you, aren't they?
Yes.
They're feeding this image of you that they've got in their head.
Yeah.
So that you're now thinking, oh my God, that I've never been loved like this.
And also they future fake.
Yeah.
So you're constantly living in the future.
Of course. You're so therefore disconnected from the present. You've got no reality anymore, have you? Wow.
He also said, I would love for you to have my child. Gosh. Again, very early on. He had 3 children already by 3 different women.
Oh, wow.
Now, I've never actually wanted children, so that wasn't something that made me, oh yeah, if I was, I think I'd have probably got pregnant straight away, and which I see a lot.
Yes, because you're his then forever in one way or another.
Yeah. But I think it's because I didn't want that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And deep down, I knew that he didn't, but I just think it's part of the love bombing of, I want to marry you, that whole idolization of what you can have.
Well, you're the
I'm going to give you
princess.
everything. Yeah. You're going to have it all.
And you're right, that future faking, you're going to, I'm going to, it's going to.
Yeah. It's going to be. So you are constantly living in the future, even further down the line.
God, I mean, even if you've had boyfriends before, that sort of experience, being made the special one, being made the princess, being promised the world, it's exciting at that age. And you don't have much of a frame of reference, even if you've had boyfriends before, of what real adult life looks like. Yes, you've got films and the soaps and your parents and all that sort of stuff, but you haven't got the cellular experience yet. Had you had boyfriends before him?
Yes, yeah, I'd had long-term boyfriends. Now looking back, I do actually realise that one of my relationships was narcissistic, but he was a lot younger.
Yes.
So he was kind of moulding his craft at that point. But yeah, I can definitely see a lot of narcissistic traits back then.
I want to say this because I've seen comments on stories like yours before, where people say stuff like, isn't it a coincidence that this girl's had loads of narcissistic boyfriends? And something we talked about earlier was you've got dyslexia. And I sort of said earlier, and it's true that a lot of people with dyslexia have a lot of crossovers with ADHD. The reason I want to bring that up before we tell the rest of the story is because people that have had dyslexia or ADHD growing up have always felt like they're not enough.
Yeah.
So they become quite vulnerable to people filling them with love, I say that in inverted commas, and confidence and self-esteem. It's all fake, of course, but it feels very real. And if you've always felt that you're not enough, if you've always felt like you can't achieve enough, then that sort of becomes a replacement. Oh, I am enough. Is that fair to say that that was the experience that you were having?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now I know about dyslexia, and now I've had that formal diagnosis.
Yeah.
I can see how all through school, I was never made to feel like I was worthy of anything because I was stupid. I couldn't read properly.
Yeah.
I would always be called out in the class, and it would make you just want to just hide.
Yeah.
And reading a book as a class, I'm literally sweating, waiting for my name to be called because I'm terrified I'm going to start reading like a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
It's the most uncomfortable feeling. So constantly being told you're not good enough, and it's so demoralizing that you want someone to say that you're enough. And that's exactly what a narcissist is going to do at that point. They're going to tell you you are everything. But then after 3 months, everything that's perfect with you, suddenly everything's wrong with you.
And it can be that quick, can't it? It's literally, so for a girl that's vulnerable, that's never felt enough, that's always felt a bit stupid, is going to be, prime bait. Is that the right word I'm looking for? Yeah. For someone who is desperate to manipulate and coerce. And, I feel like they can almost read, there's like a sort of shyness or an awkwardness. Even if you look very pretty and confident, just body language and those things that they'll notice about you because like you say, they're looking for a victim. And I'm not saying that you were a victim at that point in time, but obviously there was that vulnerability there. And I think it's really important because there's quite a high amount of girls with neurodiversity that end up in narcissistic relationships. So I wanted to make that point. So if anyone then says, well, isn't it a coincidence? Well, there's kind of reason behind why these particular girls and boys can be vulnerable to narcissists, and we can't just ignore that. So now that's out the way.
But my longest relationship to date is 6.5 years, and he wasn't a narcissist.
So what was different about him and you at that point, I guess?
Well, I think he did his own thing, and I think I did mine.
It's just different.
There was no control element there. He didn't try and change me.
Yeah.
He respected me.
Yeah.
Which is what I have in a relationship now.
Yes.
And it's just so different. The dynamics are so different. Yeah. Both very fast, like both of the narcissistic relationships, very fast, 0 to 100. And that's it. You're in a whirlwind. And that's why so many people, including myself, said, how did I get here?
Yeah. It's almost like blink and you miss it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you said 3 months there. I mean, I assume that was your story, that after 3 months, the cracks start to show.
Yes. Yeah.
What was the first, looking back, obviously at the time you might not have noticed it as, oh, you probably did, but you ignored it maybe. What was the first real sign that something wasn't quite so rosy?
Well, now I look back with my intelligent head on, asking why I have so many males on Facebook. Because Instagram, I don't think Instagram was really out there at that point.
Yeah.
So it was just Facebook. And it was at that time when we all wrote stupid statuses about what we were doing, having for dinner, etc. And he said, yeah, why have you got so many men on Facebook? And I said, well, they're people from school. You know, everyone just added everyone at that point.
They did.
No one spoke to each other. But, no. Yeah. And he said, well, do you speak to them? No. Do you need them on there? No. What's the point of having them on there then? And then, so he didn't directly say, I want you to get rid of them. It's done in such a clever, coercive way of, oh, okay, well, just get rid of them then.
Yeah. Question, just get rid of them then.
Oh, with narcissistic abuse, you are constantly, why this, why that? You are constantly having to explain yourself all the time. Why are you doing that? Like, have you thought about doing this? Like, it's a lot of the time, they don't actually outright say, you can't do this.
Correct. It is. It's that, it's almost like bombarding you with questions so you're confused.
And then it's easier to say, okay, I'll just do that then. Or to please, because you go into that fawn trauma response.
Yes, you do. Which is what you would have experienced at school when you were being told you were stupid.
Yeah.
You know, I want it to stop. So I'll hyperachieve in other ways if I can.
Yeah.
I look for a way to please or to be the good girl.
Yeah.
And then you mimic that in the relationship as well.
Yeah.
So you're trying to be the good girl. You're trying to make sense of this bombardment of questions. And I suppose you're in the spotlight because he's put you on a flipping pedestal. You're a princess. So now you're not only a princess on the pedestal, but there is a big spotlight on you. And anything you do or say is going to be noticed, isn't it?
But he'd also put me in a position where he was still with somebody else, and then me come along and me look like I'd split the relationship up. I didn't know that I was competing with somebody else. I didn't know about this person until further down the line, when he did finally tell me, but they weren't together. She had just had a baby. He was no longer important in the relationship. They hadn't been intimate for 2 years. They basically just lived together. And at 26, of course I'm going to believe that.
You've got no reason not to. He's 49, remember?
Yeah. And also he had bombarded me with all this love, affection, and I trusted him.
Yeah.
He is a pathological liar, and I believed every word of it. And so, but he was then saying to other people, so like down the gym, his friends, he was making me out to be the victim. So everyone hated me.
Oh my
so
life.
I had to form this layer of over me of protection, because he would say, people are saying this about you. People say this, people say that, people say you look so miserable all the time. People say that you come across really aggressive. So if I'm being fed this. And so actually at the gym, when I'm around these so-called people that's saying all these things about me, I'm actually looking like the person that he's creating, because I'm not going to smile. I'm not going to say hello to these people that's been allegedly slagging me off. So he had everybody dancing to his tune and creating chaos and animosity amongst everybody. Like this, he was like the puppet master.
I'm just trying to think of this young girl. You know, I think because I said to you earlier, I've got a 17-year-old, and I want to kill the people. You know what I mean? I get this real overarching desire to hurt people that see a young girl and believe some bullshit that a person, well, twice your age, essentially, is saying. I mean, at no point do people not go, hang on a minute, mate. Look, okay, you know, she's your girlfriend or you've seen her or whatever. But come on, you're nearly 50. She's much younger than you. Perhaps if you tried this, was there no one saying to him, get a grip?
I think everyone was saying, and he was encouraging this narrative that I was a gold digger. I didn't know he had money. I didn't know what he had, what he didn't have, because I wasn't from the area. I was so new to this. And, I'm now this alleged gold digger that's coming in for all this golden money.
And they all believed it. They didn't just
Yeah.
go, hang on a minute, but she's 26 and you're nearly 50.
Yeah.
So is it that she's a gold digger, or is it that you want to have a young girl on your arm? Which one is it? Is there no one questioning him at this point?
No.
Are they all a bit like him, these people?
I think at the time they were all very much coerced into and manipulated as well in believing that, because he was very charming.
They're good. Yeah, because they're good at what they do.
He's so manipulative. He's so charming. And he would never really, especially when it comes to women, he would never call people by their names. It's gorgeous. He would call every woman gorgeous or darling or sweetheart or sex pot.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
Oh God.
So, and he would never call me Emma either. He would always call me gorgeous, or I don't know. So it's completely taking your identity away. And
you're right there.
And just make it. And obviously, everyone loves to be called gorgeous or beautiful.
Yeah.
Princess.
Yeah.
And see, it makes you feel good every time that you hear that.
Yeah.
But I think that's how, because all these women down the gym did actually fancy him. Yeah.
So he had something, it was an energy that he had.
Yeah.
Because like you say, you weren't particularly attracted to him at first.
No, I wasn't. But I suppose if you think, now I look at it from a 36-year-old, if I'm married and I have been called gorgeous for 10 years by my husband, and then you've got this very charming, charismatic guy down the gym that everyone's, so drawn to, and he's calling me gorgeous.
Mm.
Wow, he actually thinks I'm gorgeous?
Yeah.
And he did end up having an affair with someone else down the gym while we were together. And I found all the messages, and I was seeing all the coercion and what he was saying, and, the crap that he was writing. Honestly, I think he could have started the chat GBT, where it's like, all the love bombing language, because it was all the same. Textbook.
When you look back at that now, I mean, obviously when it was happening to you, it's the first time that you've really experienced that level. So you're 26, it's brand new, it's lovely, and you're being put onto this pedestal, and it's, it feels good. Like, we all like a bit of validation and a bit of attention. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But then when you see him do it to somebody else, what happens in your body? Like, does your heart sink when you see he just replicated exactly the same language?
It hurt massively.
Yeah.
Because then I was back to childhood Emma. I'm not enough.
Of course, that girl in the classroom that just is scared of being humiliated.
Yeah. I was so humiliated. And because I was so humiliated, I had to put a persona on of it turned to anger.
Yeah.
And instead of to him, really, it to her.
Because again, they do a very good job at making us look elsewhere.
Yeah, because when I called him out on it, it was, she's obsessed with me.
What a knob.
Yeah. She's obsessed with him. And it's taken for me to find out through just looking, because wherever I'd look, I'd find something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and then I would then be the angry person down the gym, calling her out, being horrible to her.
Yeah, because again, then he can use that as the narrative. Oh, she's just angry. She's a bit mad. She's jealous.
And then obviously this is what I have to deal with.
Yeah.
Because I am angry. I'm fuming. Yeah. We're planning a wedding at this point.
How long had you actually been together with him by the time you discovered these messages?
Probably about a year and a half. So possibly 2 years.
I mean, quite a long time for him to manipulate and program your brain and create the trauma bond.
Yeah.
It's really important to say at this stage that he was actually convicted of this.
Yes.
This awful long-term abuse, and there was so much to your story. I know we've got loads to unpack, but also I want to get this in now, because we mustn't forget this bit. He was actually convicted, was it again afterwards?
Yeah. So he got convicted with me in 2022 for coercive and controlling behaviour, and he got 19 months. And in 2024, he was convicted again for non-fatal strangulation and ABH.
So I wanted to throw that in. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, people realise how serious this is.
Yeah.
But what we also will move on to later for anyone that's going to listen in sections, because it could be a long one, this, is that you had to go through hell to be able to prove what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as with many of these stories, you weren't really taken seriously at times.
No.
So, year and a half in, you discover messages. He's love bombing someone else, starting the coercive behaviour with them. They're obsessed with him. You're the crazy one. And you're in a position now where, I guess, like you say, you're about to get married. So you're invested.
Fully invested, planning an engagement party, and that was the humiliation part. There's me putting invitations out there, you know, my fiance this, my fiance that, and he was so affectionate at times. You know, if he was going out to work early, he would write notes all the way down the stairs. I love you, can't wait for you to be my wife. So he would do a lot of that, but then also the coercive, controlling side of it. So this is where it became normalized. And then I started to know what goes, like it's in the rules, what I could do, what I couldn't do.
Give me some examples for those that are maybe have been where you've been or are going through it now. What are those things that we can look out for?
Well, you start to have a lot of consequences. So you learn without them saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. You will learn that something will happen and then there's a consequence. And so then you think, oh, I better not do that again. So if I take a call from my mum, I'll have a chat with her and then I'll get the eyes and I think, oh, and then I'll try and get off the phone quick. And then it'll be, what did you answer that phone for? Like, what do you need to speak to her about?
Just constantly make it, again, bombardment of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you speak to her yesterday? Like, you're 28 years old. You really need to speak to your mum every day. You need to grow up, Em.
Wow.
Now you need to get in the real world.
And that's just for having a conversation with your mum.
Yeah. So next time when my mum rang, I ignored it.
Yeah.
And then I would only talk to her if I was in the car going to Sainsbury's.
So now it's a secret thing.
Now it's a secret. Or if there's something on the TV, there'll be certain things that I wasn't allowed to talk about. There was just so many rules that I knew that I couldn't do. I knew that I couldn't just say, I'm going to go and see a friend for a coffee. I couldn't do that.
Because he would question everything.
It would be, why do you need to see them? Well, you've got stuff to do. You've got work to do. When are you going to do that then?
Again,
it was
questions.
Constant questions and constant, okay, I won't do that then.
Because it's easier.
Also, they're very good at changing your mind. So if you're going out or if you've got an event, they are going to sabotage that. And that could be creating a huge argument and making out that it's your fault, or they will make out that, you know, do you really need to go?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing anything tonight. I thought we were going to spend the evening in together.
Yeah.
Why do you need to go and see them? I wanted to spend the night with you. Oh, then go on then, just go. Fine.
And then they can say they never stopped you.
Yeah.
I told her she could go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because and then you think, oh, actually, I won't go. Because you start to learn that, again, the consequence is going to be too horrific.
Yeah.
The next day or when you're out. So bombarding with messages. What are you doing? Who are you talking to? What are you wearing?
So the clothes thing as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a really common one, isn't it? What are you wearing? Why are you wearing that for?
Yeah.
So he would do those. Yeah. So now you go, well, I won't wear that because he won't like it.
Well, when we got together, I had to chuck all my clothes away and he bought me a whole new wardrobe.
Wow.
I mean, of course, at the time, you thought, brilliant.
Yeah, especially if he's got a little bit of money, because you're like, I'm getting really good clothes. And that's where the gold digger thing comes in. But what people don't realise is he's throwing this stuff at you.
Yes.
You're not asking for it.
I didn't ask for anything. I didn't ask for a bag. I didn't ask for jewellery. I didn't ask for anything. It was given to me. And a lot of it was given to me after a narcissistic rage, abuse, things like that, because it would ease his conscience. And then I couldn't bring up, I bought you a bag, didn't I, to get over it.
Yeah. You're a lucky girl.
Yeah.
Do you know how many other women would like a bag like that?
Yeah.
That sort of shit.
Everything was materialistic, but then he would make me feel like that, well, that's what you wanted. But then I didn't ask for it.
And of course, we've got to remember that this kind of insidious mind control, it convinces you, am I just ungrateful? Yeah, because my mate, she wants this Chanel bag really badly. I should feel really grateful for it. And he was really sorry for what he did, because he did cry, or he did tell me, that he's got this stuff going on for him, this trauma or whatever it is that he's going through. And he is a nice person. He can be so kind and affectionate. He does leave me those little notes. So, you're constantly confused and going around in a sort of rumination of these different thoughts, I guess. What does it feel like in your body? What does it feel like in your body because I've got to say this, having had some rather unhealthy relationships myself, and coming from a history of, the family dynamics that people are already aware of in my life. So it feels for me, and then you can feel it in your body, when something's not right. And so many of us ignore those signals because, again, we're of an age where we don't really understand the signals. We know it doesn't feel nice, but again, the smoke and mirrors that are created and the shiny object, look over there, instead of feeling what you're feeling, look over there and look at the bag and look at the clothes I've bought you, look at the house that we live in, look at the car you're driving. So you're looking at the shiny object. And for those that are with narcissists that don't have the money, it'll be something else they're distracting you with. What did it feel like in your body when you just knew that this isn't right? Because there's always a part of you that remains, isn't? We said this earlier off camera. There is always a part of you that's still there. It's just how much you're paying attention to that part. Can you remember that somatic feeling in your body?
I think I was in fight or flight all the time.
Yeah. You just never were able to be present anymore.
Yeah. My stomach would constantly be bad.
Yeah.
I felt sick all the time.
Nervous.
So nervous. Because I didn't know what version of Ash I was going to get.
You were going to get the eggshells, wasn't it?
Jekyll and Hyde. And I was terrified of him drinking, because that's when the physical abuse would start.
Because he had a problem with alcohol, didn't he, to say the very least?
Yeah.
Which is not uncommon with narcissists. They do tend to struggle with alcohol. They tend to love money. Money becomes so important to them. They're very risky with money. They tend to have a lot of money. They tend to spend a lot of money. But they also tend to have addictive personalities as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the girls and those of us that have been in relationships that aren't healthy, we are also addicts, because we're codependent and we are addicted. We're trauma bonded and addicted to the relationship. But talk to me about some of that physical abuse as well, from, the way it starts. Because we know with physical abuse, like any abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse, it's the testing phase first. It's almost like, what can we get away with?
Yeah.
And I know it's done in a rage, but how did that start for you?
It was actually, I would say, about 4 months in, or even 3, where he had been on a 24-hour drinking binge, and we was at one of his houses in Brighton, and I was just sitting there for hours while he would sitting on the sofa, just talking to me, saying, "You're a slag, you're this, you're that." And again, 3 months in,
just telling you again and again, you're a piece of shit, you're this, you're that,
you're worthless. Yeah.
What had happened for that to happen? Because often I've heard abusive men say this. Well, there was a lead up to it.
No, it was just him drinking,
and he was just saying.
I think with him, when he's sober, he can contain the demon in him.
Yeah.
He's still very coercive, controlling. He needs to be in control all the time. It's all about power and control. But when you put alcohol in his system, that's it. It's unleashed. His eyes go black, and the pure venom of whatever's inside of him is coming out. And whoever is going to be a woman, because it's never a man, the woman is going to get it.
Yeah.
For hours and hours. And if you say anything back, then that's when the physical abuse.
Yes.
I had hours of the psychological, you're this, you're that, and then we're driving back to Maidstone, and he was going on and on about past relationships, who I'd slept with, just putting me down, like, why are we talking about my past relationships? I'm not talking about it, but he
Yeah.
just seemed obsessed with who I'd been with and how many people I'd slept with. Like, it was really pathetic.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about a 49-year-old talking about a 26-year-old's past. Like, I wouldn't dream of asking.
Well, deeply insecure, because let's face it.
Yeah, he was very insecure.
They always are.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, people think, we use the word grandiose with narcissism, and people think they've got an over elevated sense of self. They've got a fantasized version of self, but underneath that is deep shame, knowing that they're not enough, knowing that, or believing deep down that they're never going to measure up. So the only way to cover that up is to create the fantasized, idealized version of self, and then to decimate anyone or any woman that comes into their home, into their path.
Yeah. So I think I got to the point where I was like, I had enough. So I was like, yeah, I was fucking amazing in bed. And then, because I was driving and because he was paralytic, he hit me around the face as I was driving. And it really, really shocked me because I thought, did he just hit me?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I pulled the car. I was like, get out, get out. And he just laughed at me and he went, this is my car. Now, at that point, he'd already and he didn't buy me a Range Rover. He bought himself a Range Rover that said, oh, this is yours. Nothing was ever in my name.
Yes, that's a key point.
Yeah. So the keys were a pawn, basically.
Yeah.
If you comply with the abuse, you can have the keys. If you don't, I'm taking the keys away from you. Because I see a lot of comments and it's like, oh, you'd bought a Range Rover, gold digger. But nothing. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yes.
It's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you're being fed lie upon lie. So, yeah, I mean, who's going to say no to a Range Rover? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't true. So at that
and
point,
remember, you're a young woman.
Yeah.
You're not in your 50s going through this.
Yeah.
So you haven't got the benefit of hindsight and all the things and experience.
Yeah. I mean, at that age, 26, being told, here's a Range Rover, I was like, there's no way I could afford a Range Rover at that point in my life.
No.
So, yeah, I was like, amazing, thank you.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it wasn't mine. And he said, this is my car, drive. And I'm thinking, if I get out, I've got nowhere of getting home.
Yeah.
I'm in Brighton. So I've just started driving and then he's actually passed out, luckily. But then I'm trying to convince myself of, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have responded back. That was my fault. And then when he woke up, he was a different version again. The eyes weren't black anymore. They were they were grey because of how much alcohol, but
Yeah.
there was like a tint of blue in there. But he was so different. And I was like, I'm going to drop you back at your house, because we weren't living at his property. We'd got a flat together at that point. I was going to drop you off. No, I want to be with you.
So the regret had kicked in.
Yeah.
Of his tantrum.
But he wouldn't say sorry. There's no sorry.
Well, they don't, do they?
Oh, no.
No.
It was as if that didn't happen. And I bet if anyone asked him now, he'd say, that never happened.
Of course.
Because I have in the past said, you hit me in our first 3 months. No, I didn't. You did.
Well, gaslighting you. You've imagined it. I never hit you. You did this. Yeah, it's all the confusion techniques.
Yeah. So, and that the physical abuse he would spit in my face.
Oh my God, that makes me absolutely fuming. That is so degrading and disgusting.
It's it's worse than being punched in the face.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. What a horrible, vile. I mean, if we didn't dislike him already, not that this is a witch hunt, but you can't hear that.
Yeah.
A man spitting in a woman's face.
Yeah.
Or even seeing a man spit in another man's face infuriates me.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
It is the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
But that's what he used to do. Because obviously there's no marks there.
Yeah.
And I think it's to completely degrade you in the worst possible way.
Ugh.
And like laugh at you while they do it. Or he did it. It's
what
just.
What are you feeling at that point, Emma? You know, he spat at you and he's laughing at you. What are you dissociated? Are you detached? Are you just feeling like a little girl wanting someone to come and save you? What's going on for you at that point?
I had completely dissociated.
Yeah.
I think the first time that he spat in my face, I was in shock.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? Like,
Yeah, you
I
can't really
just,
describe
I
it,
didn't
can
know
you?
what to do. Like, I think I went into freeze as well.
Yeah.
Because that's just
You
so
just play dead.
I've never ever experienced anything like that. And I think I probably would have rather been punched in the face, to be honest, because when I would say, "You've spat at me," he would say, "Well, it's not as if I punched you, is it? Get over it."
I mean, what man, really? What man? And I will use that word again. And I know we probably got to be careful with what we say, but what man spits at a woman and says, "I didn't hit you.
Yeah.
Come on, get over it."
Yeah.
That's not a man. That's a boy.
Yeah. That was the most common thing that he would do. I mean, he did smash my head against a wall once, one in the kitchen, in the cabinets. I absolutely have escaped death from him on several occasions where I've had to run, and his house was gated. I used to say the house was like a prison. I felt like a prison because when it's all gated, it's locked. It feels just like it's eating you up, this house. And I would have to run and jump the gate. And there was times that I ran out of that house because I think if he had caught me, I would probably be dead by now.
Because the rage just took over.
The rage took over him. It was the pure black eyes.
Yeah.
It's literally the devil looking back at you. There's no reasoning with that person.
No. Once they've gone, they've gone. I've seen it. I mean, I've experienced violence myself, and there is a shift. There's a break.
Yeah.
There's a switch, and it's psychotic. And it's animal now. It's not human anymore.
No.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Because when people say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? You're in survival mode of trying to get away at that point.
You're just like a deer that's trying to find safety, running as fast as you can, or curling up as small as you can.
Yeah.
The dorsal vagal state, for those of you that heard me say this before, I know you're probably bored to death of hearing me say it, but it's where the nervous system actually just shuts down.
Yeah.
And you're playing dead like an animal. Or, like you say, you're trying to sometimes fighting back, because like you say, you're listening to sometimes hours and hours and hours of emotional, psychological abuse, and then he's hitting you. And sometimes a human reaction is to fight back.
Yeah.
Sometimes the human response is to go into dorsal vagal and play dead. Sometimes it's to run as fast as you can. And, you're never going to be in the same headspace. It's going to be a different day every single time it happens, a different response, a different nervous system. I think the pattern starts to form after a period of time of what works to keep you safe. But in the early days, this is all new, and you're just trying to do whatever it takes. And but on that point, sorry to interrupt there, but on that point, it's interesting that people say that still in 2025 to people. And men experience abuse at home as well. So why didn't you go? Why did you stay? And it's like, have you not been listening to people telling these stories, or reading the books, or watching the documentaries? There's a whole trauma situation here that affects the brain and the body. The brain-body system is 95% of your being. It's not as simple as just, yeah, you got a good point. He's a bit of an arsehole. I think I'll just pack my bags and go. If it was that easy, nobody would ever get stuck in an abuse cycle. Yeah. So from that point of view, because I mentioned very briefly earlier, and I know you said this to me off camera as well, we become addicts to the abuse, don't we?
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, I think with coercive control, you are broken down so much. Your identity is lost. Your confidence is lost. Your financial freedom, in many cases, is lost.
Yeah.
You're isolated from people. You no longer think the same as well, because you start liking things or doing things like the abuser because you're around them all the time. And so you're going to pick up things that they like, and you're going to learn what you can and can't do, those consequences. So just having the realization of, actually, this man's abusive or this woman's abusive, I'm going to leave. It's really not that simple, because you don't know reality to fantasy anymore. And a lot of people that have said to me, I would rather be in fantasy than be in reality and realize what is really going on. Because when you go into reality, you have to make a decision.
And did you have decision paralysis by this point as well? Like you literally can't make a decision because, again, that confusion, all those questions, those bombardment of questions every time you wore something or spoke to your mum or went shopping or went to see a friend, do you lose that ability to make a decision as well?
Yeah, I think every time you go around that abusive cycle as well, so the idolization, the and the discard, I think every time you go back, you lose another part of yourself, and it says to that person that you have no boundaries and I can continue abusing you because you're allowing me to. And that's really hard because you're not allowing it. You're believing the version that's coming back in when they're saying sorry and they're going to change and I'm going to go to therapy and I can't live without you. Also, they do a manipulation tactic of I can't live without you. I'm going to kill myself. So then you feel like you can't leave because they're going to do something
and
to
you're
themselves.
going to be responsible for that, and that's a lot for anyone to carry.
Yeah,
we've all heard that, haven't we? Well, they're going to kill themselves or I'm going to kill myself. At this point, it's very important for those that are in this situation, I've got friends in this situation or family in this situation. This type of abuse literally physiologically changes the brain.
Yes.
When we're talking about decision paralysis, when we're talking about the abuse cycles and we're talking about letting them do this, it's not that simple. The executive function in the brain is altered. Is it? I mean, you know this, I'm speaking.
Yeah.
But the executive function is altered. Your ability to be logical and analytical, it's now not as functional because the amygdala, which is the danger response to the emotional processing, and the hippocampus are so affected. It's dialed all the way up to hypervigilance.
Yeah.
So you can't use the executive function in the same way.
No, I call the amygdala the smoke detector of your brain.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy.
It's constantly going off now because you're always in danger.
Yeah. And if you're in danger, we know, by the way, for those that haven't heard this before, oxygen levels from the front of your brain, which is where executive function is, will be less to give you the oxygen to be able to produce norepinephrine and noradrenaline and all of these things that are then released into the system and cortisol to get you into the fight-flight state. And then if you can't do that, you'll shut down and play dead. So now you're not thinking. So some would then say, yeah, but 2-3 days later, things have calmed down. But actually, you're never removed from that state of hypervigilance. No. It might look like you are because you get very good at masking, don't you? And I'm sure some of your friends and family would have seen you at times and gone, you know, we know something's not right with Emma, but she seems okay. She's laughing, she's joking, because you're masking now, aren't you?
You're never quite the same, though.
No.
I think you can always tell in the eyes.
You can. Someone's dead behind the eyes,
Yeah. You're completely soulless.
Yeah.
You've lost yourself. You're crying. You're screaming inside, but you've got a smile on your face.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing is when you have to go out, whether you're going to work, drop the kids off at school, or just going to the gym and you're smiling.
Yeah.
When someone says, hi, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. How are you? When really you just want to literally break inside. Like you just want to break down because you are using every part of your energy to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's why people feel so exhausted as well.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like people say, I feel so tired all the time. Of course you do.
Yeah.
Because your body is using every ounce of energy to keep you going right now.
Yeah. And remember, it's the smoke detector, like you say. So as much as you might go, yeah, but logically, remember, logic isn't working in the same way. And I think that's really important, that the brain is effectively damaged now. So those normal processings just don't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but I think we see it with so many different types of trauma. And this is a trauma experience.
Yeah.
But I guess there comes a point where you're starting to realise, I mean, he's physically abusive, he's verbally abusive, he's emotionally abusive, he's bombarding you with questions, you're confused, you know you're not the same person, you may not understand this fully. What point do you think, this isn't right, I'm really not happy?
I think it got to the point where he started drinking again very heavily. And I thought, there's no way back from this. I'd already put him in rehab.
So we've gone through lots of trying at this point.
The amount of AA sessions and the amount of rehab I went and sat through. Because my whole life became about him. I didn't have a life anymore. It was just about him and his needs. And my mission was to get him sober.
To fix him.
Yeah. And also because I thought I can deal with the coercive controlling. Not that I knew that that's what that was.
No.
But I could handle that.
Yeah.
It's the physical abuse and the black eyes and the psychopath that would come out. That's who I couldn't deal with.
Well, no, because that part of him you just didn't want to see anymore. Was he sexually abusive?
He wasn't, actually.
Because sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. I mean, that's not a thing to gauge it against for anyone's listening. But sometimes that's going on as well for a lot of women as well, isn't it?
He's very handsy.
Yeah.
When he's drunk, and I think this goes with men as well.
Yeah.
He's very, very touchy-feely.
Yeah.
And, when he is drunk, he wants to be sexual with you.
Yes.
And obviously you're like, I don't want to. So I guess there was times when I did have sex with him
to please
that
him.
I didn't want to.
Yeah, because you could see, well, I suppose it's either that or the demon, isn't it? Like you don't know which version you're going to get.
And you also go into, well, if I do this, then that's pleasing him. So that's actually keeping me safe. So we look at, our brain is to keep us alive.
Yeah, and to keep them happy is to keep us alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you go into the people pleasing. I will do whatever it takes to make him happy, because when he's happy and I'm doing the right things, then I'm going to be safe.
Yeah, it's all about safety.
Yeah.
And I suppose because you're isolated by that point, he is the only person really that you've got a relationship with now, because you're not even allowed to speak to your mum in front of him, really. You've got to do that in secret. So this is your everything.
Yeah, I definitely really couldn't have a relationship with my dad. He hated him with a passion, because there was only 18 months difference between them. And
yeah, of course.
For my dad, he was another man in my life.
Yeah, so he's just jealous.
Yeah.
Because they are such insecure children, really, aren't they? They're toddlers, really, having a tantrum, throwing their toys out the pram. Your dad's now competition. But also a threat, because your dad's your dad and your dad's going to want to look after you. So they do have to cut you off from anyone that loves you, don't they?
Well, that's why he tried to do all he could to destroy that relationship. So that's when he sent the topless picture of me to my dad.
Oh my God.
Because I think he said, I'm your number one. And I said, no, my dad is. It's quite a normal thing for your dad to be your number one, like the man in your life. If you have a healthy relationship with them.
Well, that's what we want. We want that to be the case, don't we? That's a healthy, good relationship.
Yeah. And he said, he's not your number one, I am. And if you don't tell me that I'm your number one, then I'm going to make sure your number one sees you exactly how you are. And I thought my dad had blocked him.
Oh,
so I said, I'll go on then, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't going to give him at that point what he wanted. Because I could see that he was bullying me. He was trying to control me. And he did. He sent a topless picture to my dad, just saying, like, look what a whore of a daughter you've got.
I mean, what did your dad do?
He didn't actually open the message,
Thank
which was
God.
good, because he did see his name and he thought, I'm not even opening that.
Thank God.
But he did say, look what a whore of a daughter you've got. So he just took the phone to the police and said, this is that, and they opened it. They only cautioned him. That was it. And he laughed about that. He was like, do you know what? All the men at the police station was looking at your picture and they were laughing, and they were actually saying to me, you got good job, you got rid with that one. So again, he was making me feel like that I couldn't even go to the police, because the police had this image of me that I was a slag.
Was that true? I mean, not that they said that, but that they opened it. I mean, I'm not questioning you here, but had he actually spoken to them without you present? So it's
well, yeah, because he did get arrested.
So the reason I say this is because if someone is sending a picture of you topless to your dad, calling you a whore, and the police only caution them, it is no deterrent at all for these people, be it because we know women abuse men as well. There's no deterrent for these people at all to stop. There's no consequence. You mentioned the consequences that you have to live with as a victim of that type of abuse, but actually for the perpetrator, there's no consequence.
No.
It's just a joke.
Yeah.
Very important point to make. Who's going to want to go to the police? There is more to the story, but who's going to want to go to the police? And we know that so many women go to the police and get ignored. I mean, that was partly your experience, wasn't it?
So many times. He'd been arrested for ABH. He had been arrested for turning up at my property. He had been called because when I had severe post abuse as well. So when I did leave the relationship, it then turned into the stalking harassment, which it generally does go from.
Which is so damaging for you.
Yeah. So he was trying to destroy my character and my career.
The smear campaign.
Massively. Even I was even in the Daily Mail and things like that and talking about narcissistic abuse, and he would write in the comments under John Smith, how original.
Oh, for God's sake.
She's a prostitute, she's a stripper, she's this, she's that. She hasn't got a clue about life. So it went to that extent. And I was sending all the police this stuff and they were saying, well, he's not done enough. He's not actually done anything. And it's very, very frustrating because it's like, what do I have to have? Because I never did have any marks on me.
And we know that you don't have to have a mark on you for you to be living in fear, for your whole brain to be completely physiologically changed by this experience, but also being spat at, being threatened, being made to feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time, your identity pretty much being taken away, nothing belongs to you anymore, not even yourself. How is that not as bad, if not worse, than being hit? Most people would ask to be hit, like just punch me in the face, get it over and done with, and go through years and years of that. But also, I mean, that's just another confirmation that you're not enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
From the police now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not enough, we don't care.
Yeah.
Which is that whole thing you experienced with dyslexia. He's obviously completely dismissed you and minimised you and your whole identity after idealising you at first and then minimising you completely and hurting you again and again. And now the police are saying, well, we don't think he's actually hurt you enough. Now, at this point, I think it's really important to say, you mentioned this earlier, 1 person a day takes their life over this type of abuse.
Yeah.
You gave me a statistic which both of us agree is probably wrong because not enough people go forward. But how many people per year are experiencing this type of narcissistic coercive abuse?
2.4 million.
And you said also 1 in 5 people are living with or have experienced domestic abuse.
Yeah.
So like I caveated that there with, these are the people that report it. So the statistics are based on that only.
Yeah.
You were reporting it, but nothing was getting done.
Yeah.
So, and at this point, it's probably important to say that there were times when you tried to take your own life.
Yeah.
So you could have been one of those statistics.
Yeah. The first time when he started drinking again, we were very close to, we were going to Maldives for Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was bad, where I was actually telling people, like friends now. And I remember one of my friends said to me, don't go to Maldives, just don't go. And I was thinking, I can't not go. I have to go. Like, there's no way I could turn around and say I'm not going. And I said, don't worry, I've just bought Mel B's book.
I mean, this is now the Bible for you, innit? I've got this book. I'm going to be okay.
She's going to be with me on this holiday. This book is going to confirm and validate everything that I now am experiencing.
So there's a part of you that's gone, right, I relate to what I've heard Mel B say.
Yeah.
She's put her book out there. This is around 2017, 18, isn't it?
18.
So her story was quite fresh. So we were hearing a lot about her story. And she's now like a massive advocate for this sort of stuff. But at that point in time, you must have been hearing her talk or seeing her writing stuff or whatever and gone, that's me.
Yeah.
And so you're going on this holiday thinking, I'm going to read this book.
I am going. Yeah, I thought I'm going to read this book, and this is going to help me get through this holiday.
Yeah.
Little did I know of how bad this holiday was going to be.
What happened?
He started drinking as soon as we got to the airport, so I just knew this is it. He would talk to people in, like, because he he's a very extrovert when he drinks, so he'll talk to anyone. And obviously Maldives is full of couples, newlyweds, like it's a very loving place to be.
Yeah.
And he was talking to all these newly wedded couples, and he would be quite nasty about me. And they were like, why are you talking about your fiance like that? And he didn't like that because also it was all inclusive, so he couldn't buy anybody. So he loved buying people, whether it was drinks or whatever it was, he would buy people.
That was his inroad.
Because they'd be in his pocket. But he couldn't do that with this holiday. So one woman actually said, you're disgusting. The way you talk about women is vile.
Good for her.
I know.
Were you there when she said that?
No. So he had been vile to me that day. He'd spat in my face Christmas Eve, pulled my hair out. And I don't know how I fell asleep with him because he had me by my hair like that, spitting in my face. And he held his fist up to my hand and was like, I want to smash your fucking face in.
Oh,
and I said, well, if you do, there's going to be blood everywhere. And he just like pushed me to the bed, and that's when I went into freeze. I think I still had my clothes on, to be honest. I didn't even brush my teeth, take my makeup.
Yeah.
I didn't want to move because who knows what was coming next. He laid down and I think he passed out. It got to Christmas Day morning.
God bless you.
I got up quickly, very quietly. I went down to breakfast on my own, and I literally just felt like I was dying because I was looking at all these families, couples, like it was Christmas morning.
I mean, that's paradise, but hell, isn't it? You're in paradise and you're in literal hell.
I was in hell, 100%, because I was so far away from home.
And looking at all these happy people when you've just had that experience again, not the first time, but repeated.
And then I avoided him that day. And I went and found a spot, and I saw a few more people, a few more couples, spoken to them. And then he turned up, and it was like he was in Ibiza. Like he came in and was like, oh, let's get the party started. And, you know, some of these people didn't even know we were together, because I quickly put like my hat on and I went out back to the room, and I just got showered and everything. And then as I'm walking down to dinner, he's walking towards me and he's like, grab my hand. He was like, hold my hand, bitch. And I was like, I'm not holding your hand anyway. And then he was like, give me the key. And past experience, he used to take hotel keys away from me, make me sit outside for ages until he let me in. So I was like, no, you're not having this key. Then he tried to like push me down to the floor. And this is where a woman came running over, pushed him away from me, was like, get off her now. And then she like held me like that. She was like, I've spent a few hours in that man's company, and he is vile.
Wow.
And it was the first person that had said to me, oh God, what, you see it as well? Like, you're seeing this too. Like, this is not me.
Wow.
And that really, really validated me. And then there was like, come for dinner with us. And I was like, oh, thanks. And I was in a complete freeze at that point. I think I was so dissociated. It was foggy. I was in definitely a functional freeze.
Yeah.
So I could walk and talk, but
you weren't there.
Nothing was like lights were on, but no one was at
Dead
home.
woman walking. Yeah.
Then dinner was over. And then we walked back, and then Ash kind of come back and said to someone, oh, she's only gone and smashed the hotel room up. And then I was like, oh shit, he has actually smashed the hotel room up. He said it was me, but he had also, again, it was another thing of his to smash hotel rooms up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, he has. And anyway, management come and found me and was like, you need to come back to your room now. I walked in there, and like, these are the beautiful little huts in the water.
Oh,
he had ripped off the basin sink, pulled the toilet off. I mean, this man turns into like...
Is it because he wants to prove how strong he is?
I think he's just got so much rage in him.
That it comes out.
It just comes out. He had smashed all my makeup. There was blood everywhere. Lights were hanging from the ceiling. He had done a lot of damage. And my clothes, makeup was smashed everywhere. Like everything, it was just horrific. And they were like, we're going to put you somewhere safe tonight.
Thank God.
And you just think, is this really happening?
Oh, my life.
Like, why can't he just be normal, and why can't he
Yeah.
just snap out of this and see what he's doing? Anyway, they put me in there, and then apparently he was going crazy, like trying to find me, running up and down the beach, like a crazy person. But the thing was that they were still serving him alcohol. And I said to him, just stop serving him.
Oh, my life.
And I woke up in the morning. God knows how I fell asleep. I think I must have just passed out.
Exhaustion.
Yeah. And then he messaged me and was like, I'm in Mali. I was arrested and taken back to Mali at 4 a.m. Now, obviously, he'd kind of little sobered up by this point.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, God, what has happened? How has this happened? You know, why has it turned out like this? Not, I'm really sorry what I've done to you, but how has this happened?
Like he's completely unaware of his own behaviour.
Mm-hmm. And then he was like, I'm not allowed back on the island.
No shit, Sherlock.
And he was like, let's go to another island. You know, I'll book another one. But the previous island we'd been to before, Canterbury, he was like, we'll go there. So he said, come to the mainland and then we'll go to the other one. And I was like, but how do I know this isn't going to happen again,
Yeah.
Ash? Like, what you've just done, do you not realise what you've done? And still not really taking accountability in it. And then he switched again. Oh, well, if you want to be like that, then fine. I'm going on my own. And then he cut my phone off. So unless I was connected to Wi-Fi, I couldn't ring. And I was pretending to the world that I was having this amazing time. I was speaking to my mum and dad. They were like, oh, where's Ash? And I said, oh, he's in the bathroom. He's having a shower.
Oh, bless.
Putting stuff up on Facebook like, oh, look, I'm in paradise. Just because how could I tell anyone that what's just happened? I mean, it sounds so unbelievable.
Yeah.
And what could I do?
But how lonely must you have been pretending?
Yeah, it was awful. And then he did go to the other he went to the other island, and then I must have been about 4 days on this island on my own. And then it got to the day before New Year's Eve, and because my phone wasn't working, I called from the hotel to Candemar, and I said, can you put me through to Ash Southgate's room? And he answered, and I said, hi, it's me. And he was like, oh, this is awkward. And I was like, why is it awkward? It's your fiance ringing you. He was like, what do you want? And I was like, I'm going to come to the island. He was like, why are you coming now? I said, because it's New Year's Eve tomorrow, and I think we need to sort things out. And, you know, I don't know what state you're in, and I don't want anything to happen to you. He was like, I need to think about it. And I was like, don't be so stupid. Just sort me out of our flight and I will be there today. And he was like, yeah, well, I'll ring you back. Little did I know that he had another woman.
I knew you were going to say that. It was bloody obvious.
He had another woman in his bed at that point. How this man does it, I don't know. Because I really don't know how he does it. Well, I do, because he's so charming and he's a pathological liar.
And he uses money.
Yeah. But then I did go to that island, and then he paraded me round. I mean, he was paralytic when I got there. So it was the usual, sobering him up, putting food down his throat, trying to get him back to a normal colour other than yellow. Like, honestly, sometimes he'd look like Simpson.
God, I mean, how is he still alive?
I know.
We know the liver repairs itself, but surely there's a point where it just goes, no, you're fucked.
I think because he's not human inside, I think even the drink don't kill him.
Yeah, demon, you see.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So, and then actually these two women walked past at breakfast, and they said hello. And he was like, oh, just a couple of lesbians. I was crying in their arms when you weren't here. It was one of them that he'd slept with.
I think she needs to be told that she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
Clearly not classic lesbian. She shares the... Yeah, anyway.
But he... and people were looking at me like, where's this woman come from? Like, it's like he just ordered me in. But he loved it. He was like paraded me around.
Well, because he wanted them to be jealous. It's the triangulation thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And God knows what they'd probably heard about me at that point.
I mean, it's almost, it would be too wild if you put this into a film.
I know.
You would get to the point where you're like, oh, this is ridiculous now.
Yeah.
This would never happen.
I know.
That's what, it's so extreme. And I
Very.
know this is this is an extreme story, but I know there are other stories like this. I mean, I've heard a lot of extreme stories about abuse over the years, and I'm sure, well, for sure you have now. But when I hear these stories, it never, even my own, it never fails to be a bit like, but how did this happen? When it happens to you, you even go, because we said earlier, didn't we, before we were recording, when you look back on these relationships, you go, even to yourself, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
But we forget we've been so broken and so manipulated and so molded to their desired outcome that you do genuinely have a physiological change in the brain. I mean, I'm not just saying that, there are physiological changes in the brain. So you're now functioning almost like a computer. You've been programmed.
Yeah.
And so, of course, when you come out of it and you've started some healing or some repairing or some reprogramming, that's when you go, how did I not see it? But like I said earlier, there's always a part of you that's seen it. It's just that that's shut down because you are in shutdown. You're in a totally different mode, survival mode. But I don't think survival mode, for those that have never been through this, I don't think survival mode is enough. It's not enough for people to understand.
No.
It is like getting a piece of plasticine and remolding it, and then that piece of plasticine can never be remolded.
Yeah.
Obviously you can when you get away from them, but when you're with them, you just become exactly what they want you to be. It's like training a dog.
Yeah.
But it's worse because the dog really doesn't have that other part of them that's going, something's not right here. So you've got that internal noise as well as being trained.
You're also being told that no one else is going to want you.
Yeah.
Especially people with children, they'll say, who wants, a mum with 3 kids? Or they will really put you down and make you feel like that you can't live without them. No one's going to want you. You're ugly. You're pathetic. You can't even do this right. So you start to believe that. And that, again, that's another way of them controlling and manipulating you and to making you feel that you can't leave, that you are trapped. No one's going to want me. I felt like that. Who's going to want me now? I'm shattered. I'm broken. Yeah.
So that's a really important point. And by the way, I'm pausing to think about that because there's 2 different things going on in my head. With my ADHD brain, I've got 2 different trails of thoughts. I'm coming back to that. Again, repetition is recognition to the brain. So the more you hear something over and over again, the more it becomes, well, we know neurons fire together, wire together. So it now, I say this on every episode, but you're now literally with a pathway that says nobody ever want me, and it's embedded and it's programmed. That's what I mean by programming. It's like training a computer, training AI to do what you want it to do.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
So they break you down and then rebuild you into the version
into
that
the
they
mold.
want.
Yeah, that they want.
Yeah.
And because you're so vulnerable anyway, and most girls, let's face it, they're vulnerable for one reason or another. In your case, you'd never felt enough. You'd always felt that you were stupid, that you weren't like everybody else. In some cases, it may be a history of family abuse or whatever, but there's always a vulnerability. And I have worked with girls where I've said to them, that have gone through narcissistic relationships, what was the root of this? Why do you think that they chose you? What was it? And they'll go, I don't know, nothing bad's ever happened. And sometimes it's that. Sometimes they've had such a perfect life that they've actually got no awareness of this type of abuse. So they're vulnerable for that reason. But there's always a vulnerability. There's always a way of getting in, is what I'm trying to say. And so we must be aware of that with our children and with our friends that are going through this. There was some form of vulnerability to begin with, and then the level of training that they do and the level of programming that they do because of that vulnerability is, like you say, it's rapid.
Yeah.
So it's very, very fast. And then by the time you're sort of in their life, you've given up so much already. And so it's easy to keep doing that to you.
Yeah. It's also the jackpot, it's like when the slot machine, you keep putting a pound in, you keep pulling it and nothing's coming, but you don't, by that point you've put in like £50.
Yeah.
And you don't want to walk away because what about if you get the jackpot?
Yeah.
And so you think, I've put so much effort into somebody. What about if they do change? What about if they do go to therapy? And what about if someone else is going to get this amazing version of them? And you become
How often did you hear that?
all the time.
Yeah.
And I was, you're still in that future faking where it's the dangling of the carrot, because it's not 100% abusive all of the time.
Of course it's not. You're getting some reward.
Yeah, you're getting that drip fed of affection.
Yeah.
So some people will go through 6 days of pure horrendous abuse for 1 day of loveliness, because they know it's coming, because it's a pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
So you go from 7 days of absolutely being perfect, and then it getting shorter and shorter and shorter, by which point you will literally take any form of affection, anything, even making you a cup of tea, you'll get a dopamine hit from that, because there's not a lot more else, where you'd have got bucket loads at the beginning, and now hardly any. But by that point you're shattered and broken, and you're told how pathetic and worthless and everything's your fault, and you're so gaslighted, and you don't know what reality is anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. You're living, like you're saying, the fantasized reality, not the real reality.
Yeah.
And, it's really important to say that about the carrot dangling. Those moments, because the brain's so desperate for that moment, it's like Christmas, isn't it? Even if it is just a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Like, there's no underestimating that level of addiction at that point. It's like I guess a heroin addict that just looks for that piece of foil. There might be a little bit left in, it's that. It's, I'm desperate now to get that. But they have created that addiction response in your brain with the trauma bonding cycles.
Yeah. That's why coming off a narcissist is like coming off heroin.
Yeah, it is.
You're literally, you don't know what to do with yourself. You're bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
Because you're wanting something.
Yeah.
Just to regulate your nervous system again.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to all this cortisol, and then a massive hit of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and then nothing. And it's like, well, I need something, because I don't know how to function anymore. And that is really hard, but you have to go through that period, or at least very, very minimal contact, to get yourself through it.
Well, you bloody well did, didn't you? I mean, I'm not saying this in that way for any other reason than the story afterwards. I mean, the lengths you had to go to. Tell us about that bit.
I went to Australia because when I came back from that Maldives trip, I attempted suicide. I found out that he'd lied to me again. I found a secret phone with messages to another woman, and that's when I had a serious breakdown. I cut my legs to pieces. I cried for 5 hours, to the point where I couldn't cry anymore because I had no moisture left in me.
Bless you.
People that's been through this will know exactly what you are howling, like you are bent over, and it's like you've been stabbed all over. And I was taking pills and everything. My cleaner, who now is a very good friend of mine, found me, and saved my life that day. And then another friend of mine, she lives in Australia, and she was like, look, just come to Australia, just come, even if it's for a month. And that was a big time, because me being away from Ash for a month, like, I don't know whether I can do that, but it was the turning point. Like, I'm going to extreme lengths now and I was due to go to Vegas with him for my birthday, which is in February. And I did think, if I go to Vegas, I'm not coming back.
Yes.
I'd be coming back in a box. I did know at that point,
this is dangerous.
This is it. So I did go for a month. I mean, that was the hardest month I've ever had to go through, because I hadn't seen this friend in a long, long time.
Yeah.
We weren't like best friends or friends that kept in contact. It was kind of just like really random, like getting back in contact. And she held a lifeline for me. And I'll be forever grateful for this, because she gave me the opportunity of going out there. And I went out there. It was horrendous, but I came back after the month. He coerced me back. By this point, he had manipulated the whole gym, that I was a gold digger. I'd stolen loads of money from him. I'd stolen the Mercedes that he'd bought me. Yeah, and so even a gym instructor actually came up to me and said, "You're not welcome down here, you thieving." See,
Oh my God.
yeah, I could not quite believe it. And then I did a body attack class. Don't know how I done that. Went outside, and I was actually driving another car because this Mercedes that he'd got me, I didn't feel safe enough driving it because of whatever reason. And he walked out in front of this car that I was driving to make me stop, but I swerved, nearly like knocking like a load of flower beds out. And then later on, I got arrested for attempted ABH. And so then I was put in the cell. I was treated as all these times that I had been abused, and yet I was the one that was being put in a cell. I was totally dissociated. I couldn't actually believe this was happening. Like when they said, "We're arresting you for attempted ABH, you do not have to say anything." I'm thinking, what?
Oh my God.
And I actually said to them, if you're going to arrest me, can you put cuffs on me so I can get this full experience? Because I can't believe this is happening.
Wow.
And they weren't putting cuffs on me, actually. So I've never actually been cuffed.
Oh my God. They didn't even give you that.
No. So I haven't had the full 24 hours experience. 24 hours in custody. But I tell you what, going through the whole process, being booked in, processed, they ask you a form of questions like, do you feel suicidal? And I just thought, I don't even know what I feel. I'm broke.
Yeah.
I can't even describe how I'm feeling right now. And they put me in the cell. And then when that door shuts and you're in this very, very small confined space, and you think, wow, I really am isolated now.
Wow.
The ultimate manipulation, coercion has put me here.
Yeah.
I'm now the perpetrator, or deemed to be the perpetrator.
Oh my God.
And I just laid there for hours counting the tiles.
Oh my God.
I mean, they did actually say, do you want a menu? And I was quite shocked that there's a menu in custody.
Did you ask what was on it first?
They did say, we would recommend you don't have it. It's not the nicest.
Wow.
And then they come and open the door and they said, oh, you're free to go. I was like, what, am I not going to be interviewed? And they said, oh no, we've looked at the CCTV. We can see you didn't do anything wrong.
So they arrested you before looking at it?
They arrest you before looking at the evidence, which I find really, really bizarre.
Well,
what a waste of time.
Yeah, waste of police time.
Yeah, but they did drop me home.
Oh, well, at least you got a lift. I mean, with every cloud, there's a silver lining.
Yeah.
But at this point, right, you've been to Australia, you've come back.
Yeah.
Now you've been arrested.
Mm-hmm. Then I was like, right, I'm going back. Get out. I'm going back to Australia because more abuse was happening with other people, his flying monkeys. You know, It was getting very, very extreme now. Like stuff on social media, just vile. So second suicide attempt, broke around my neck.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I woke up one morning and I wasn't actually at my mum and dad's. I didn't want to go there. I went to my friend's and she wasn't there. She said, the key's in the pot, like just go in, you can stay there. And I woke up and it was so silent and my eyes were like really foggy. I opened Facebook and there was a load of pictures and I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. He's won. They've all won. I am done. So I put the rope around my neck, and then as it was about to happen, my phone rang. So bizarre. And it was a friend, and he said, what are you doing? And I burst into tears. He was like, I'm coming to get you.
I just had shivers then.
I'm coming to get you. We're going to Hatton Garden. Because so what had happened, he had chucked me out the day before, and he was throwing food out of a window, like biscuits, going, here, I'll have some food because you haven't even got money to feed yourself, have you?
Oh God, he's so disgusting.
You're so pathetic.
Ugh.
And so I had no money at this point, none. I literally had a ring and a watch. So my engagement ring and a watch that he bought me after he'd nearly smashed my face in with an iron. That's the only reason I got that watch.
Peace offering.
Yeah. Didn't ask for it, but yeah. So I went to Hatton Garden, sold it, got absolutely fleeced, of course.
Well, yeah, you would.
I mean, for a 40 grand watch, I got 6.5.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I was thinking going up there, I'm going to end up with a bit of money, but no. And then the engagement ring, I got 18, considering he paid 80.
Oh my life.
But to me, 18 and 6.5,
Life changing at that point.
I didn't even have 5p
Yeah.
before I went there. So
Yeah.
I just took it and run.
Yeah.
Like they must have had the easiest exchange ever.
I'll take anything. Just give me something.
And then with that money, I went to Australia and I invested in my my future, my counselling. But it didn't stop there. He came out to Australia and tried to coerce me back.
Flipping heck.
This is what I mean. It never stops.
You went to the other side of the planet
Yep.
to get away from him, and he followed.
He followed me.
You can't say he didn't put effort in
No.
to be
But
a really good narcissist.
He had lied on his what do you call it? The
Visa thingy?
visa. Because he was under investigation for me for ABH and he said no. My friend at the time, she went to immigration.
Good.
And she got him deported.
What a friend.
Yeah.
What a friend.
So
he got deported from Australia. So then,
yeah,
because then he was convicted.
That he got convicted. So this was in 2019. He got convicted in 2022. So I had to come back because of COVID.
Yes.
So I was still studying, and I did graduate online. And then that's when I was doing the whole media thing. Like I was picked up quite quickly.
Yeah.
Luckily, I met an amazing woman, and she did some PR for me and got me in Daily Mail, The Sun. And that's when he was then stalking, harassing.
Yes.
And then it escalated again. Like after about a year of no contact, he contacted me and he said about, you're right, Em, I am a narcissist. I'm really sorry for everything. By this point, I'm counselling at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm teaching people what this is. And I'm like, yeah, I know what you're doing. And so I allowed him to come back into my life.
Aww.
With a very different lens on, though. I wasn't Emma back then. And I was constantly being told by the police that I didn't have enough evidence.
Okay.
So within 8 weeks, I had love bombing, the abuse, and then the stalking, the harassment.
You collected all the evidence.
Every conversation, every text I had. Even when he'd ring me, I'd put my computer on.
Yeah.
Because I could then see it.
Yeah.
I could see it for myself. And also I wasn't being gaslighted at this point. Like when I was in the relationship, I was being told constantly that it's your fault. And I'd learned so much from this. And I suppose I used it as research.
Yeah.
He is everything's based around him.
Yeah.
What I experienced. So I was seeing it and I was able to categorize everything that he was doing, how he was trying to make me feel, all the manipulation. And so I had it all. And he did physically hurt me as well at that point. But it was the sending flowers. And this is why I say when you collect evidence, don't just collect the bad, collect the good. Because this shows a pattern.
The picture.
Show the pictures of the flowers. Show the picture when he chucks you out of the house. But yeah, then he finally got arrested and he was remanded, which I was shocked at that, he was arrested and then when they rang me and they said he's on remand, I was like, wow. Because I'd gone from being told he's not done enough, kind of making me feel like that I was wasting police time to now him being remanded.
Just because you had the evidence.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, key part of this story.
Yeah.
Key part of this story and actually leads into the app, which we'll talk about because we've got to talk about that because it's phenomenal. But you went through years of serious assault and abuse of all different types. And in this 8 weeks, you're able to paint the picture.
Yeah.
And now this is what your app's doing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a place where women that are going through what you've gone through can collect their evidence so they can also go to the police with their evidence.
Yeah.
What a fucking phenomenal lady you are. I mean, honestly, because the beginning of the story, it's always difficult when you're talking about these things to someone because you're aware that they're going to have to go through so many of the archives. I know we said off camera, we tell the story as though it didn't happen to us because
Yeah.
there is a dissociation. There is this sort of separation from that part of us because we grow through it and we become a different version or a metamorphosized version of self. And it's hard to talk about these things. I'm so well aware of it because I do it all the time as well. And you can feel like, oh, here we go, copy, paste, repeat sort of thing. So I was aware of that in the beginning of the story. But, you know, what you've done by retraining so that you could have, and I know that you were really intrigued of why people become alcoholics and why people become the way they are. What's their story? You've gone down that curiosity road, but you know, becoming a counselor and therapist, and then speaking about this again and again, working with some great people in the field as well. I know you, I don't know if you could talk about the thing we said earlier.
Yeah, no,
So you shot a film with Dr. Romani, didn't you?
Yeah.
Who anyone that, you know, has been following anything about narcissism, she's at the top of her game.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Dr. Romani. She's goddess. We love her. So you're kind of involved in so many different projects now.
Yeah.
But what you've created is this container of safety for others. And that is phenomenal, you know, because you went through so much and you were, again, I kept referring to this all the way through the episode at school. You're not enough. You can't read. You're stupid. You're this. To being told by the police, he hasn't done enough. We don't really care at this point. It's not enough. It's not bad enough. To right, I'm gonna have this new lens on. I'm going to collect everything I need to collect. Not only that, I'm going to get him convicted, and then I'm going to do the same for you, my friends. We're all going to be able to have this space where we can do this. So you're working as a therapist with women that have gone through this, but created this container.
Yeah.
So what's the app called?
MyNara. MyNara. It stands for My Narcissistic Abuse Recovery App.
And what a phenomenal idea.
Yeah.
So people can literally just download your app and then they put all of their evidence inside the app.
Yeah, so it is cloaked as well, so it doesn't really stand out on your phone.
Great.
I won't say what it is. You'll just have to download it.
Yeah.
But what I noticed with coercive and controlling behaviour is you don't have tangible evidence, as in you don't have bruises, broken bones, black eyes.
Because you're being spat at, you're being shouted at. Yeah.
These people are clever. They're not going to leave marks.
Yeah, they know.
So, yeah, I wanted a place where you can collate all your evidence.
Like a journal.
Hourly, daily, like when you log it, it will log the date and it will log the time. You can add pictures, you can add videos, so you don't just have to write stuff, you can add pictures too, so you don't have to have it on your camera roll.
Brilliant.
If they smash your phone up, your account's still there. You can log on via another phone or a PC. Your account's there.
It's literally a container that nobody else can get to, like a storage container. Yeah, what a great idea. What made you want to do that? And where did that idea come from? I know the story is the idea, but to be quite specific with it like that, I mean, you must have put a lot of thought into it and a lot of planning and a lot of money, actually. These things aren't free to start, are they?
Well, the thing is, because coercive and controlling behaviour is so hard to prove, you have to have this evidence.
Yeah.
You have to have the text messages, the voice notes, the emails, all these things. You have to show it. And it is over a course of a period of time. It's not a one-time event.
Yeah.
And also, if you log it, then you can see it yourself. You can see the pattern of what's happening.
Yeah, which you have to be able to see because you forget some of it, don't you?
Oh, with the gaslighting, of course, you're going to forget things. You're going to be told that never happened. And yet if it's logged and you've got a picture attached to it, that you know that it did.
Yeah.
You can also log red flags in there as well.
Wow.
So you can put manipulation, love bombing, and it will calculate how many red flags that you've logged.
Amazing.
And it's these red flags that you see at the beginning. So when I started dating again, I did test my new partners. I wouldn't call them partners. I've only got one, but the dates that I would have, I would test, and one red flag gone, and I was told, "You're really harsh." No, I'm just not putting up any bullshit anymore. I'm not going to waste my time into somebody that further down the line you're not going to respect me if you're not respecting me now.
Yeah.
So with my new partner, I did test him.
What does testing look like?
So I wore a very revealing outfit. to a party and I wanted him to, well, not wanted him, but I wanted to see if he was going to say, are you going to wear that?
Yeah.
Because that's what I was dressed as a dolly by Ash. You know, I had
Yeah.
all my clothes. There was nothing wrong with my clothes, but I'd been with someone else in them. So he molded me into what he wanted. So whatever I wore was how he wanted me to look. So I wanted to see if he was going to say, you're going to wear that. He didn't. He said, you looked amazing and great. So it's kind of, if he'd have said, why are you wearing that? That's a red flag, because I want people to see that it's these comments that are, why are you wearing those leggings? Who are you wearing them for? Get rid at this point, because a year down the line, you're going to be absolutely broken. You're not even going to go to the gym. You're going to be terrified of wearing leggings. You know, it all starts from, you're going to wear that.
Yeah, that is such a powerful phrase there.
Mm.
What you've just said. It all starts with, "Are you going to wear that?" How many of us have heard that? And it
Yeah.
never go. They don't. It's not like they backtrack and go, "Do you know what? I've been a bit of a dick." Then it just gets worse and worse and worse and
Yeah.
worse.
Because they're testing you at that point.
Yeah.
They're testing to see if you've got any boundaries. But
Yes.
if you turn and go, yeah, I'm wearing these leggings, and if you don't like it, tough.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Or it's, oh, okay, I'll change them.
Then they know.
They know that
Yeah.
you're easily moldable.
Yeah.
So I urge anyone that when you start dating somebody and you start to hear, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Like the constant questions,
Yeah.
get rid.
Yeah.
Because further down the line, you're not even going to recognize yourself in the mirror.
Oh wow. I mean, this app's really good for mums to talk about with their daughters as well, isn't it? Even if it's never happened.
Yeah.
What a wonderful, I don't think, yes, it's a recovery app, I know that, but it's a place that you can log certain things.
That's the main part of the app. I really want to emphasize on the importance of evidence, because, yeah, I understand that the sentences are absolutely horrendous in this country.
I mean, it's
Absolutely,
a joke.
yeah.
It is a joke. The justice system is so far behind on all types of abuse, by the way, that unless, I know, I won't say what I was about to say. It is horrendous. Yeah.
And I don't think prison is enough for someone like Ash or someone with a narcissistic personality. They don't care.
No, it's not, especially if it's like, what, you're going to do 8 months and then you're out again?
Well, he done 6 weeks.
Oh my God.
So even though he got 19 months, he done 6 weeks in prison, then he come out.
And then, as we referred to earlier on in the episode, what happened? He was convicted again for non-fatal strangulation and ABH.
Yeah.
So he went and reoffended.
And I would highlight that if there is non-fatal strangulation, the probability of fatality goes up 750%.
Wow.
Like, this is not something to ignore. Even if you're having sex with someone and they start to strangle you and make out that, you know, this is what you need to, you know, this is normal. It's not normal.
No.
It's really not. And it needs to be taken seriously. So I would say, yes, go for the conviction, because when you get the conviction, you can name them.
Yes, which is what you've done today.
And what speaking out and becoming a survivor and being able to, you know, goes on Claire's Law, so the next victim can go on it and it'll come up. It might give someone else a chance, but you're taking away that grandiose version of themselves that they paint, that they're so wonderful and perfect. Because now everyone knows who he is. Now that unfortunately isn't stopping him getting new victims.
Oh God.
But, you know, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And the fact is, you've named and shamed him. You collected the evidence. You've made it so that he can be found with Claire's Law. And I'm glad you've referenced that, because I was going to do that anyway. But that is so important, that you can go in. If you've got any suspicions that this behaviour is not right, go and check, see if he's on there.
I would also, if you enter a new relationship, check.
Yeah, just check.
Yeah. How many times do we check on reviews for restaurants,
you're
hotels?
right. Bloody Hoover.
Exactly. We look for recommendation based on someone else's experience. Why do we not do that with people?
Yeah, true.
So if you start going out with someone, just Claire's Law them.
Yeah.
And then see if there's not, great, but if there is, you know, you've probably just saved yourself a lot of trauma and, you know, possibly even death.
Yeah, well,
Because this is what it leads to.
And when you say death, just to highlight that statistic, one person a day takes their life over
Yeah.
this. So even if they don't kill you, the person in it is so destroyed that they might take their own life.
Yeah. And you don't come out the same person that you
No.
went in. I'm not.
You're not. I mean, what you've done with it is exceptional, you know,
Yeah.
but it wasn't always easy.
It's not been easy. People might be watching this and think, she's got it together. She's got a great business now. But I'm like this because of what I've had to do to get there.
Yeah.
There was days that I couldn't get out of bed. I lost 10 kilos in like a couple of months.
God.
I've got through this.
Through the skin of your teeth.
Well, because of determination and the recovery process, doing that properly.
Yeah.
I've done this myself. I've not done this through therapy because I think I told you off camera that when I was going through it, I went to see 2 counsellors and one didn't tell me I was experiencing domestic abuse and the other one was couples counselling and they took his side.
Well, we've both had a similar experience with these counsellors. Mine was 30 years ago, which is where I wanted to be the person that I had never had.
That's it. Yeah.
Which is what drives us, and I think makes you a true cycle breaker. And
I am the therapist that I wish I had.
Yeah, which is what so many of us say when we've gone through these abusive situations, and I think it also gives us a real understanding, not just a knowledge, but an understanding. We've done the training, we've studied hours on end, we've pulled through at times where we didn't think we were going to, and had sleepless nights and stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning to finish assignments and so on and so forth, and spent thousands of pounds worth of money. But actually what we really have is a deep understanding of these issues. But because we've done all the work and we've gone through recovery, we can do it from I don't want to say from a place of empathy only, but I'm very good at, and I always say this, and I think you've said this, I've certainly said, there's a part of me that's still dissociated, the part that was abused. The brain-body system does this really clever thing where it protects you from experiencing it over and over again once you've done the trauma recovery work.
Yeah.
So you can hold space for others. If you're still in that space where you feel like your nervous system isn't balanced and you feel like you can't focus and concentrate, you can't hold space for others. That's really important to say. But, you are, for me, somebody that just, there's a lot. I did an episode, I had Richard Grannon on, and I spoke about the social media movement around the subject of narcissism, how it's destroying the validity of the people that have gone through genuine abuse, because it's become a funny reel.
Yeah.
A bit like the ADHD thing, everything's just become a silly thing, and it does take away the validity of these real stories.
Yeah.
What you've done, which many people in this space don't do, is you've told a really harrowing, true story in a way that could be very difficult to keep telling. And I know because there's a level of self-protection there that you're really good at telling that story, but you've really put everything on the line here. But you've done something that's not only about, building a business, but it's about really, really giving safety to other people. And I don't think that can be minimized at all, where you might have been minimized by him. Like, I just think you're brilliant. I think you're amazing. And I think it's not just what you're doing now, it's the knock-on effect of that. It's the way that people that you are working with and educating will empower others and educate others. That's just something that you'll never see the end of.
Yeah.
And it's like when they say you plant a tree and you know that you're going to go long, the tree's going to be here long after you're gone. That's kind of what you've done with your life. You've planted a tree and it will continue to be here long after you are.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it's
I
powerful.
absolutely love when a client comes in and they are so dissociated, they're so broken, and the work we do together over the months, they get so strong. And then when they go, they're like this amazing butterfly that's flying and thriving, and they don't recognise the version that they did when they come back. And I say, take pictures of yourself from day one and then every month, and you will see in your eyes and everything about you will start to come back, because that version of you is still inside.
Yeah.
You are going to grow.
Yeah.
Like, if you do recovery properly, you can get through this.
And speaking about eyes, your eyes are very shiny and glistening today, and they are bright and alive, and like you are there and you're back.
Yeah.
If people want to work with you, because I'm sure loads of people will, where can they find you?
So my trauma therapy is my practice. The app is MyNara that you can download via the app stores.
What's your Instagram handle? Because there's a lot of Instagrammers that follow me that will be following you hopefully as well.
Emma Davey _MyNara.
Excellent. Emma, I can't thank you enough for being here. I can't thank Liam enough for connecting us as well. And I can't thank you enough for what you're doing in the space, because I think, like I said, there's a lot of people doing it, but they're not doing it the way you are. And I don't mean to dismiss anybody else, but I really think that app is a game changer. And, you know, I say this a lot and people don't always like it, but sometimes it just shows you were meant to go through something so you could be there for other people at the other end of that. And that's exactly what you're doing in ways, like I say, that are really immeasurable. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.